Welcome again. It's Breakfast Extra here with Mazzino and Celestine. Now, INEC has declared Accord's Ademola Adeleke winner of the 2026 Osun Governorship Election, securing another term in office. But beyond the result, how was the election conducted? What happened on the ground? And what does Adeleke's victory mean for Osun State? Now, we examine... Oh, I'm sorry, Queen. Apologies.
It's okay. Let's not continue.
We examine the conduct of the election, reports of irregularities and violence, the voter experience, and the factors that shaped the outcome. And we'll also speak to our correspondents across the state and get an assessment of the guests. Now, joining our... Well, we first will start with Nelson Ekujumi. He's election observer. We'll also be expecting Wasiu, Oyedekun-Alli, Executive Director for the Osun Masterminds. But, Mr. Nelson, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this morning here for Breakfast Extra.
Good morning, Mr. Nelson. Yesterday, you were...
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Yesterday, you were present in Osun State to, examine the election. So now that the governor has been, announced the winner, what would you say the overall conduct of the election was? And do you think that what you saw on ground is what has translated this morning?
Absolutely. The election is guided by the Constitution as well as the Electoral Act. And the role of INEC is explicitly stated. And if you are on the field, you would have seen that in consonance with the provisions of the law, INEC conducted the election in that manner. And under the law, INEC is expected to conduct election in substantial compliance. So for this election, INEC was at the polling station at the appropriate time. They came with enough materials. The process of accreditation took place as well as voting. And there was a machine to authenticate voters. And for me, the turnout was just, when I was on this show, the show yesterday, I was very clear about it, that the turnout was very massive. And if you look at the total figure released by INEC, you can see that it's far beyond 50% threshold, which has never happened in a very long time in our democratic journey. So it's a reaffirmation of the people's will. It is to tell the doubting Thomases out there, the naysayers, who will tell you vote does not count. At least this is a testimonial. And for me, I'm very, very happy about that.
Grand. Nelson, I was wondering, this morning, if you listen to our monologue, we actually tried to give INEC a score mark for the elections, the conduct of the elections. I'm wondering, first off, what do you think about INEC's conduct?
INEC's conduct of the election was excellent. Excellent in the sense that INEC promised that they will be at the polling stations by 7 a.m. because as observers, we had a stakeholders engagement with INEC. And they made a promise and they kept it. INEC said by 8:30 a.m., polling stations will open for accreditation and voting. And from our observation as well as reports, by 8:30 a.m., over 90% of the polling stations were up and doing. And INEC said polling closes by 2:30 p.m. But if you are on the queue before the close of polls, you will be allowed to vote. I was at polling station till 5 p.m. yesterday, and I saw people still voting because of the massive turnout. And the beavers machine was functional, even though we had some instances of some persons among the voters whom the machine could not authenticate. So if the machine is if we have 500 voters and the machine has authenticated 499, would we now say, because the machine was unable to authenticate maybe 1, 2, or 3 voters, who say the machine didn't function? Absolutely not. So for that type of situation, the machine will have scored, the functionality of the machine would have been 97%. And you and I know that in any academic exercise, whether you score 95 or I score 72, we will both have an A. So the conduct of INEC in regards to this election was perfect.
Okay. Okay, so we're now joined by Gbenga Ademola.
Yes, Nelson,
yes,
we're with you.
We're with you. We now have Gbenga Ademola, who's the Human Design System Coach and Social Entrepreneur. Gbenga, can you hear me? Good morning. Gbenga, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning. INEC
Good morning, Queen. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm not here alone. I'm with Mazino Pil, but the governor's
Yes, I can see my friend there.
Ademola Adeleke has been announced the winner. Now, based on yesterday's election, would you say that the people voted for the party or the people voted for the personnel?
The people voted for performance, productivity, profitability, humanity, nationality, patriotism.
Oh, is that Ogbenga?
Did you hear that?
Yes, we heard that. That was very, very precise and succinct, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also
that was what people voted for. Yes.
So I also want to know whether you think that this will follow the course that most other Osun elections follow, which is part one, we vote, we collate, we announce, and part two, we go to court. You think we might see that this time, judging by the conduct of the elections?
I don't think that will be the normal thing that will happen. However, this is Nigeria. This is not the first time that we'll see this kind of a thing. And at the end of the day, you will still see people who are not contented, who are groused, who are not satisfied by the election result. You know, it is only in this part of the world that we like to waste money in the courts for no reason, for no cause. You know, so for me, I don't think that is necessary. But like I said, the DNA in the normal Nigerian man can spring up tomorrow morning and say, you know what, we're heading to court.
So let me come back now to Nelson. Nelson, I wanted to address the big issue that we had pre-election, and that was on security, with 25,000 personnel deployed to Osun State. I'm wondering if INEC actually dodged that big question of whether there could be a violence-free election. There were reports of skirmishes. There were reports of tear gas being deployed. There were reports of, I think, a center being attacked. But these were, well, relatively not as grave as we had expected that they would be from before the elections. So based on security, would you say that this is a pass mark for the architecture that was deployed? And would this architecture be, well, one that we could use again come 2027, Nelson?
Is highly commendable, but you must recognize that this was just one state out of 36 states. So the 2027 election is going to be conducted generally across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. So, and also we must recognize that the security, the successful conduct, the credibility of any election is not that of the police or INEC alone. It's a joint responsibility of all the stakeholders. It's a collective one. The stakeholders must be ready to play by the game. So also the security agencies. The deployment was because of, you know, the nature of our political gladiators, whom we have not seen, who don't see election as a contest. And to borrow from the word of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, they see it as they do other affair. And that is why we have cases like the violence that characterize the pre-election and the pockets, very significant incidences of electoral violence on election day. So the security architecture must be commended, and we just hope that this type of security, cover can be, extended all over Nigeria, not only in election days, but 24/7 in our lives. The responsibility of the security architecture of any state is to make us safe at any time, not only when we are conducting elections.
Right. Now, Benga, a lot of people talked about, the 25,000 personnel that made it to Osun State for this election. Would you say that number was one of the reasons that made, the voters come out in their number because they felt safe?
Maybe 20% of the reason.
Okay.
I don't believe that's one of the reasons, because the fear for the people before was the fact that the ruling party deployed the security personnel, especially the police and the civil defense, maybe not the military, they didn't have confidence in them that, oh, they are coming to support the ruling party candidates. And remember also that our governor in Edo State had already expressed and manifested some verbal diarrheas on national TV, to the point that some of the thugs in Edo State who could not fix their own bad roads that leads to the government house, who could not fix the road between Benin and Warri, Mazino, some of our people went to Warri over the weekend for the wedding ceremony of a naval officer who is our member in the biking community, and you need to hear the report of the situation report, bad report in Edo State. But he left his responsibility, he left his duty post and came to Osun to come and insult a sitting governor. So what you see in Osun is the determination of the people in Osun. That's what you see, that's what you saw. And you will see in some of the video clips that went viral where they were challenging the security personnel that you cannot do bala blue here, you cannot mess up here. Do you understand? So people are frustrated that we don't want bad lives again. It is determination of the people beyond having insurance or assurance in the military personnel or in the security agents that were brought to Osun State. What we see majorly since yesterday is determination. That what we see in Osun State is progress. So this is progress. Anywhere in Osun, the man did not just make Osogbo, the capital city, a likable and livable place, but he entered every corner of Osun State, and that's what we are talking about: good governance beyond politics.
So you mentioned that the 25,000 personnel or more was just 20% of the decision. So what would you say? Of course, the governor moved from PDP to Accord, and we did not have PDP on the ballot. Would you say there's also percentage in terms of the PDP people following him into Accord?
Like I said, and I'm repeating, what you saw yesterday up until this morning has nothing to do with party politics. Let me tell you, from investigation, from research, and from what we have seen visibly, if dancing Governor Ademola Adeleke had moved to a new party that was registered by INEC a day to the election, he will still win. Take that and go and present it in the bank.
Take that.
Because you see, Nigerians now understand what good governance means beyond politics. Political party is just a vehicle that carries the candidate into the office. After election, what we expect is good governance. Make life comfortable for people, and that's what the man has done in the last 4 years.
Okay.
Thank you, Benga. First off, let me check the definition for bala blue. If you don't mind, the Nigerian political art of answering a simple question with so much confidence, grammar, and hand movement that 5 minutes later nobody understands. I don't know who you're speaking of there, Benga, but yes, that's the definition. But let me come to Nelson. Nelson, I want to ask an express question once again. We might have touched on this, the first question that we asked you, but why did Adeleke win? Was it his popularity? Was it the opposition's weakness? Was it the structure he might have brought with him from other political parties? What exactly would you pinpoint as the one factor that made this a win for him?
Well, for me, as an election observer, it's a mixed bag. You had the governor that was an incumbent. So he had the paraphernalia of that office that he has, enjoyed in the last almost 4 years. And don't be surprised that he must have built some networks. And if you recognize that the first time he was in office, he got into the government house through the ticket of the vehicle called the PDP. And that PDP structure is still in existence. And maybe some of them, jump ship with him to Accord party. So, and if you know the politics of the Southwest states, you know that our politics is very, very local. A lot of local underlying tendencies must have, influenced the mind of the voters to decide where they want to, cast their lots, which they have done. But for me, the most important thing here is that, at least for once, the naysayers, the people who never see anything good in our democracy, who are always bad-mouthing the electoral umpire, bad-mouthing the security agencies, at least for once, they are applauding the same system that tomorrow, when the game changes, when the shoe is on the other feet, they will come and tell you it was rigged. Now, nobody is talking about rigging. Okay. We are all conscious of the fact that, look, the election was conducted properly in line with the provisions of the Electoral Act, and the winner has emerged. So if tomorrow the shoes on the other feet, we expect people to be civil, to be respectful, to be responsible in their utterances and their conduct, because we don't have any other country but Nigeria. So for me, the factors that must have shaped this election are very many. There are very many. I can point to you, for example, if you look at the administration before the Governor Ademola Adeleke administration that had a running battle with regards to finances with the public workers. That was one factor that a lot of people were talking about. So those set of people in any society, they are a critical block. And wherever they decide to pitch their tents, we also have a determining factor where the pendulum will swing. So I can't point to one factor as being responsible for the victory. The people themselves know why they did what they did, and it is their choice. It is their right. Well, and I say congratulations to them.
I think you touched much on it. I think incumbency has a lot to do with it, and familiarity, whether you like it or not, also does have a lot to do with it. He is a very relative kind of governor. But Nelson, still on you, I wanted to know, since as an observer, how significant was vote buying in these elections? There were reports that there were certain instances of vote buying, and I'm like, okay, so when does it become significant enough to be regarded as an ailment or an illness in the system?
Well, if you have followed our political trajectory, the menace of vote buying has been something a lot of us, almost all of us, have been on the same page, campaigning vigorously against, sermonizing our people that you can't sell 4 years of your life. I don't know how much it will amount to in Naira and Kobo. And for in the election in Osun, we had so many reports that some persons were paid maybe a week, maybe 1 month before. But unlike what used to happen, where you see people openly at the polling stations, you see a crowd gathered, somebody will tell you that man over there is giving them money to vote for his party. Then you see somebody else at the polling, very close to the polling booth, looking at how people have voted and, inducing them. And even the people themselves get to the polling station on election day and they are looking right and left, looking for the ISB that look, I'm here for sale. How much can you give me? But in the case of Osun election, you saw that that prevalent, open vote buying, we didn't see. So those reports that we had, I think that is the responsibility of the police to investigate that votes were bought days ahead of the election. I don't have that fact because I wasn't a witness to that, even though I was in the state about 2 weeks before the election. But what I saw at the polling station, I didn't see any form of vote buying.
All right.
Well, Nelson, while you were observing, of course, you mentioned yesterday that you went to different polling units in local government. Which area or local government surprised you the most in terms of the turnout and, the reports from INEC?
You can't single out a local government. When I was with you yesterday, I told you that all the local governments, I went to about 4 local governments, and the turnout was the same. From 7:30 a.m., you need to see how the people were coming out. I went to, especially around the C, that's Ward 3, Atao Jadi, Ward 4, and some other areas, and the crowd was just the same everywhere. And from reports all over the state, you saw the massive turnout at the polling station. I just told you that I was at a polling station at 4 p.m., almost 5 p.m., and we still had over 200 people waiting to vote. So it's a testimony of the fact that the people have a trust and confidence in the electoral system. So you can't single out any local government. Look at the results returned, 1,055,000 thereabouts, which is over 50%. So for me, I'm very happy about this turnout in the election, and I hope we can do more in other elections.
Okay, Benga, my turn to have you answer a question. Benga, so the interesting thing about the elections yesterday is that you could divide the preference of the people into three different places. Did they vote for the personality, did they vote for the party, or did they vote for performance? Especially when it comes to party, in recent times we've seen people agitate for certain parties only because of the party names or the group of members who are inside of that party. In this case, well, he switched parties from one election to the other, yet the vote still came to him. So our Osun electorates, are the voters now voting based on, well, what exactly are they voting based on? Is it the party? I think we can scrap that. So is it personality or is it performance at this point?
Okay, thank you, Mazino. Let me take you on briefly on the history. Remember that his elder brother, popularly known as Sherubawan, was the first executive governor of Osun State, if you remember. And during that time, people loved him. Trust me, I don't know what this family, I don't know what the ancestors, I don't know what the great-grandparents had done in Osun State that really make people to shower their love on this family. But guess what? There's something I discovered. I may be wrong. Up till now, I have not seen anywhere in Nigeria where two brothers, siblings from the same mother, had become governors of a state. Like I said, you can fact check, you can correct me, but as far as I'm concerned, up till now, I've not seen. This is the only family I've seen whereby you see two brothers from the same womb becoming governor in a state. It says a lot about that family, about that lineage. You know, so if I'm going to give it percentage, I'm going to say to you that, you know, personality, cum family, maybe 30–40%, which now translated into loving him for his performance. I keep on saying performance, not because I read news, but because I went to Osun State. This morning, as I was jubilating, my wife said, "Why are you jubilating? You are not even jubilating about Ondo State or your state." And I said, "Don't forget, I was born in Ikirun 50-something years ago. I was born in Ikirun. In fact, let me tell you, during my 50th, I didn't do party. I went to Ikirun, to that hospital where I was born, to celebrate with the children that were born on my birthday. Guess what? For 3 hours, we couldn't locate the hospital. I was on phone with my mom trying to describe, because development has swallowed everywhere. You know, so I know what I'm saying. The development cut across the state, not just building some infrastructures in the capital city, but it went, it cut across. And that's, for me, it's a plus, it's a good one.
Nelson, I want you to please answer the same question. What was it for you, personality versus performance? Nelson, are you with us? Nelson? Nelson, I hope you can hear us. Okay, good.
Like I told you earlier,
Nelson, can you do us a favor? Nelson, I hope you can hear us, Nelson. We've had to mute you. I'm going to ask you now to please turn off your video so we can make do with your audio. I think it will be better then. So if you can hear me, please turn off your video. Let's just make do with the audio. If you've done that, go ahead.
I can hear you.
Good. We can hear you better now.
Well, Benga, while we're waiting for Nelson to join, I just wanted to ask you, of course, you've talked about how, happy you are in terms of the outcome of the Osun elections yesterday. So I wanted to ask, based on the voters' performance or the way they turned out yesterday, would you say this is reflecting what we should expect come January 2027 for the general elections? Benga?
Oh, okay. Yes. Sorry. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
What I can say is that we pray and we hope that this that we witnessed since yesterday till this morning will also play out during the general election in 2027. However, Nigerian politicians, you can't trust them like that. You can't trust them. So I cannot tell you, Queen, for a fact that 100% we should be sure or we should be certain of this same process and this same procedure to take place in 2027. But we pray and we hope for the same thing to happen. We will be glad because Nigerians are getting wiser. Nigerians are getting they're getting educated, on daily basis. The literacy level is increasing by the day for them to understand the difference between politics and governance. But I do not trust Nigerian politicians to that level. Trust me.
While you're not trusting Nigerian politicians, let's hope that you trust the citizens. Now, Benga, if you were sitting in front of Governor Adeleke right now, what would you tell him that, okay, see, these are the things that the Osun people are saying to you for them to re-elect you into power?
Oh, thank you. Number one, he should continue that infrastructural development, especially roads. He said something critical during his interview with the town hall meeting with New Central. He said Osun State is primarily civil service and farming state, agricultural state. So they need good roads for them to transport their farm produce from inside the bush to where they will sell. So let Governor Ademola Adeleke continue that good job for people to be more productive and profitable. Number two, he should increase security. Security is very, very, don't forget, it's because we are at peace in the last few weeks. That's why we've forgotten that, the kidnappers, the bandits are still around. And don't forget that their last operation was just a few hours away from Osun there in around Obomosho. So he should ensure that the security of the state is tight. Number three, education, and youth development. Of course, that's my constituency. And health sector. And of course, I see and I listen and I hear testimonies from the market women, market men, the babailerons, the yalojas and all that, how they are, how they are thriving. It should continue that as well. But education, health, it should make them priority.
I hear we have Nelson back. Nelson, can we get confirmation that you're back with us? Do we have Nelson back, please?
I'm back with you if you can hear me.
Fantastic. Nelson, let's take a... Yes, we can. Let's take a look at the numbers now, okay. Nelson. I'm wondering what the geographical spread of Adeleke's victory tells us about his win. I want us to take a look at that now. I'm going to compare his numbers to that of Oyebamiji, just the two of them. And I'm going to focus on one particular space, but let's start with Osun Central. He had 6,970 more votes than Oyebamiji. He came in at 169,064. Osun East, he came in at 152,951. That's 14,277 more than Oyebamiji. Now, Osun West, where he got 189,052 votes against 143,997 for Oyebamiji. That is 45,055 votes more than his contender. So what can this tell us about how the people voted for Adeleke?
Well, the voting pattern, if you look at it very well, you can see that Adeleke amassed a very huge margin in his part of the state. And that tells you clearly the local coloration of our politics. You can see even Oyedekun-Alli, because when you were asking that question, the system froze. I couldn't hear you. I only had the last part. You can see that Adeleke, in those places where you expected him to win, he took a large chunk of the vote. Because in politics, you must be able to do your arithmetic. This is where I have strength. This is where I have weakness. What do I do to bolster my weak points? What do I do to have a better advantage where I have the strength? So if you look at the voting pattern, you will see that the candidates won in areas where they come from, and they won convincingly, which was expected. And also in some places where you expected Adeleke to win, you know, he pulled off a very good numbers there with regards to even the man that came second. So by and large, it is the local coloration, the local sentiment that has been able to sway the voters and for the candidates to have garnered these figures. So I think that is the little I can respond on now because of what I heard. Because like I told you, when you started the question, I had the beginning, but in the middle, I lost you. No, I just got to hear only the last part.
You did very fine in answering that. In fact, you answered just adequately as I expected that it would go. And you even used the word I was expecting you to use. You said sentiments. Now, when it comes to elections, how safe is that? That sentiments is what rules. Sentiments is what actually carries people to the polls as against the performance of the individual that they're voting for. In the case of Osun now, would sentiments come back to bite them in the back? Or is it okay to vote based on sentiments?
What's running our system? You can't take away our emotional, outflow. So if the people have decided that they want to use sentiments to determine who governs, who rules their life, who shapes their destiny, like I said earlier on, I'm a Democrat, and I believe in the voice of the people. So if the people have decided, no matter even if I'm the wisest man, and I think they are foolish, sorry for me using that word, to have decided to cast their lot in one direction, then if the people have decided to cast their lot, and I think I'm the only one wise, then something must be wrong with me. So I believe strongly that you cannot take away those sentiments, those primordial, tendencies that shaping our life. That is just the way we are as the people. Because if you remember, some people will tell you, we have a proverb in Yoruba land. I'm a Yoruba man. They will tell you, if you allow me to translate that, it means that no matter how bad the waist of your son or daughter is, you will not take the bead and take it to beautify another person's son or daughter. That no matter what, you want the bead to beautify what is your own. That is exactly how we are as human beings.
Okay. Well, thank you, Nelson Ekujumi, and of course, thank you, Benga Ademola, for joining us and having this conversation. Of course, Governor Ademola Adeleke has been declared the winner of Osun Governorship Election, and he has secured another term in office. But of course, beyond the result, questions remain about the conduct of the election and if this will end in court. We wait and see. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.